Good morning, everyone. I'm AJ, Cybersecurity and Solutions Architect at IT Hotdesk, where my passion is protecting our customers from cyber threats. My background is in computer science, and I've been consulting businesses on infrastructure and security for the last 14 years. Also, I've noticed we've got some clients connected today, so welcome and thank you for joining us. Cyber attacks are all over the news these days, and we don't want you to become another headline. Cybersecurity works like layers in an onion, with each layer helping to protect the business. However, there's one layer which is often overlooked. So I ask you this: what could be your best asset in protecting your business from cyber threats? People. Employees can be a great asset in protecting your business from cyber threats, but they need help to do this. So how do we empower your staff to become a human firewall? Well, it's the same way we learn any skill set: training and practice. Specifically, security awareness training, also known as SAT. So together we're going to explore the concept of social engineering and why it's such a big problem. Following on from social engineering, we will cover human firewalls and the role of security awareness training in helping you build one. We will discuss what a human firewall is, what is meant by SAT, some real-world examples of social engineering, how security awareness training is delivered, and expected results. Social engineering is a common technique cybercriminals use to trick individuals into divulging sensitive personal or business information. By taking advantage of basic human nature, such as the willingness or desire to trust others, social engineering has become the backbone of many types of phishing attacks and other cyber threats. In short, social engineering targets people and not technology, and it can be very successful, as you will see in the examples, which is why creating a human firewall in your business is more important than ever. So what do we mean by a human firewall? Well, a human firewall is when employees actively support your security strategy by looking for and reporting suspicious activity. The more employees that you have on board, the higher the level of detection and the stronger your human firewall will become. Now, as mentioned, employees can be a pivotal asset in protecting the business from cyber threats, but they need help. And this is where security awareness training comes in. So what do we mean by security awareness training? Well, the formal definition: SAT is a form of education that seeks to equip members of an organization with the information they need to protect themselves and their organization from loss or harm. Now, your staff are at the forefront of your organization, representing the business and dealing with personal and business data daily. They are in the driving seats of the digital systems that are the backbone of your enterprise. And security awareness training is one of the best ways to strengthen your company's security posture, as it educates employees, providing protection for themselves and your business from cyber threats. It's all about ensuring employees are aware of current cyber threats and the different forms they come in. Without training, employees could be making serious mistakes, especially in the realm of security. Security training allows organizations to influence behavior, mitigate risk, and ensure compliance. SAT training aims to shut down social engineering attacks before they cause harm. So let's review some examples of real-life attacks and how SAT may help prevent you becoming the next victim. We're going to look at some examples of phishing, spear phishing, and ransomware, which are just some of the types of attacks that we see. First up, we're going to take a look at phishing. Phishing is an attack method that's actually been around since the mid-1990s. It started when a group of people engineered AOL's chat room feature to impersonate AOL administrators. They stole credit card numbers from other users to ensure they would always have free AOL access. And yes, the internet did actually used to look like that picture. While the term phishing was coined to describe this attack and others like it, has now come to be associated primarily with email scams. And now phishing scams continue to this day in abundance and is one of the primary vectors cybercriminals use to gain access, steal data, install ransomware, and more. As mentioned, phishing is primarily used in reference to generic email attacks. And this is when an attacker sends out a large number of emails to as many addresses as possible, essentially casting a wide net and sometimes impersonating common services like PayPal, Amazon, and Microsoft, just to name a few. Now, early email phishing schemes were often easy to spot due to grammar or spelling errors in emails, as we can see from this now rather dated phishing email from 2003. However, attackers are becoming more sophisticated, and new attacks are well formatted and focused on exploiting human emotions to get you to engage, including fear, outrage, and curiosity. So let's review some of the key points of phishing. It's high volume, usually generic and sent to multiple recipients. It's not normally personalized, and it's designed to appeal to a large audience. So let's look at a real phishing attack. Now, there have been many phishing attacks over the last few months which appear to imitate Microsoft services such as SharePoint. The Microsoft 365 collaboration platform has become essential for many organizations during the pandemic and beyond, as it allows employees to collaborate on projects whilst working remotely. Staff are now used to receiving emails inviting them to access a file, but this makes it a very attractive target for cyber criminals. Unfortunately, we've seen many local companies fall victim to this type of phish. In one of the latest scams, which uses a fake SharePoint email, the attackers use a crafty combination of legitimate-looking sender email addresses and spoof display sender addresses that contain the target usernames and domains. Now, users may have a hard time spotting these clues, though, because SharePoint does send legitimate emails that look just like this. The on-screen example, for instance, contains a graphic with a file name and a link to open it, just as what would happen if someone genuinely shared a file with you. Now, Microsoft's warning came the same week that Egress released a report claiming that 73% of organizations have fallen victim to phishing in the last year. And it credits the increase in successful phishing attacks to organizations' inability to protect employees as they work from home. According to the report, 74% of employees were not following security protocols and 84% were prone to errors. So what happened to the local company example? Well, an email was sent to multiple people within the business, which came from a legitimate contact of the business. This person was unaware their account had been compromised. Now, this is a key point. A lot of phishing attacks are actually launched from compromised accounts and not random email addresses. And this can lead to victims trusting the source of the email. Hey, that email came in from Steve. I know Steve, it must be safe, right? Poor Steve had no idea his email was compromised. A single member of the organization followed the link, entered their credentials, and that was all it took. Within an hour, the cyber criminals had logged into their account and propagated the scam by sending the same phishing email to all 7,000 entries in the company address book. They also set up an Outlook rule to move replies to deleted items. Now, this is common as to not alert the victim. Thankfully, this person was also notified via phone calls, a lot of phone calls. Now, very quickly, we were able to block access to the account, and as a result of this incident, the company agreed to put in more stringent security controls, such as multi-factor authentication, and enroll their staff in security awareness training. Now, the problem here is that the attackers did briefly have access to the account, which means that they could see all of the email and potential cloud data that the account had access to, such as data that may have been stored in OneDrive or SharePoint. Now, this is a big problem, as it may put the company in violation of GDPR if data is stolen and incur potential fines with the ICO, not to mention the reputational damage of 7,000 contacts receiving a phishing email with your name and business on the ticket. So how could SAT have helped with this? Well, by having a security awareness training regime in place, the users would have been aware of these type of attacks, and that message would be reinforced monthly. Our SAT training is all computer-based, so even home workers can easily be enrolled and gain additional protection as well as office-based staff. Now, additionally, phishing simulations, whereby we actually send test phishing emails to users, can highlight to management who in their organization may fall for such a scam, and we can use this to create a learning moment that helps to elevate a person's awareness and prevent them being the next weak link in the chain. So you want to develop a security-focused culture. Ensure employees are properly informed and trained to spot unusual activity. The goal here is to ensure that employees always follow protocol when it comes to security. Untrained employees may skip vital security tasks, take risks, and cut corners, and this can lead to a data breach, a malware infection, or business email compromise, to name a few. So now we're going to move on to the concept of spear phishing. Spear phishing is a phishing method that targets specific individuals or groups. A typical spear phishing attack is usually conducted over email, but could also be carried out over the phone. The attack will include information specific to the target, including the target's name and title within the company. Another tactic, as we see here, is to name drop an employee within the business to give a sense of validation to the request. Now, while phishing tactics may rely on shotgun methods that deliver mass emails to random individuals, spear phishing focuses on specific targets and usually involves prior research. So as mentioned, spear phishing attackers usually perform research before launching their attacks. Attackers use social media and other publicly available sources to gather information. This is known as OSINT, open source intelligence gathering, and there are actually entire websites devoted to the subject, such as the OSINT framework shown here. And as you can see, tools such as this can scour the internet for all kinds of information on a target. It's really quite alarming. Another tactic is to gather multiple out-of-office notifications from a company to determine how they format their email addresses and find opportunities for targeted attack campaigns. Now, this social engineering tactic boosts the chances that the victim will carry out the actions necessary for infection, including opening the email and possible attachment or link. So let's review some of the key points on spear phishing. It's low volume. It's usually sent to one person or a small group of people, like the finance department, for example. It's highly personalized, and attackers research their targets to craft an email that's personal and believable. So now we're going to explore an example of a real spear phishing attack. A local company fell victim to a small spear phishing scam, which we often see doing the rounds. There's actually multiple variations of this scam, but it's commonly referred to as the Amazon gift card scam. As mentioned, we assisted a local company which fell victim to this, and the playbook went as follows. The attackers performed some OSINT, whereby they obtained information about employee names and positions within the business. Now, this doesn't take Sherlock Holmes, can be done in 5 minutes on LinkedIn. Now, once they had found an employee in a management position, they used this person's name on the from address of the email they sent. I won't go into specifics as it was a real event at a local firm, but the scammers basically sent a phishing email using the real employee name to another member of the business, instructed them to buy multiple high-value Amazon gift cards, which the employee went ahead and purchased. They then asked the employee to send them the gift card codes over email, which they did. And this only came to light after the initial purchase, when they asked for more gift cards, which acted as a red flag, and the employee put their hand up. So, how could SAT have helped with this? Well, security awareness training helps employees understand red flags before they fall victim to a scam like this. And now, although this was just for Amazon gift cards and the business suffered some monetary loss, it's actually the principle that the employee could be socially engineered that is the concern here. Next time they may give up credentials or confidential information, and suddenly this can become a data breach incident which can have significant consequences. By being pre-informed and kept up to date on the latest cyber threats, this type of threat can be significantly reduced. And the goal here is to empower employees. Not all employees are confident with technology. When employees feel confident about their interactions with systems, they're actually less likely to cause an incident. And to reduce the chance of human error and empower your staff, training is recommended. The training will teach them how to protect the company when using technology, so there's no guessing about what security steps should be taken. An informed workforce, acting as a human firewall, should be able to stop this type of scam. So, it's not just local firms, or small firms, I should say, and local, which fall victim to spear phishing. Let's review a high-profile spear phishing incident, which happened in the July of 2020, and the target of this attack was the social media giant Twitter. The attack that occurred on July 15th, 2020 targeted a small number of employees through a phone spear phishing attack. The successful attack allowed the hackers to obtain access to Twitter's internal network, as well as specific employee credentials that granted them access to internal support tools. Using the credentials of employees with access to these tools, the attackers targeted 130 Twitter accounts, ultimately tweeting from 45, accessing the DM inbox of 36, and downloading the private Twitter data of 7. The successful attempt let the hackers tweet from celebrity accounts and access their private direct messages. Some of the accounts compromised were of Microsoft founder Bill Gates and now US President Joe Biden. It really does not get much more high profile than that. So what did they do with these compromised accounts? Well, as you can see here, all they did was they actually used them to post a tweet regarding a Bitcoin investment, and the scam reportedly netted the scammers more than £80,000. More importantly, though, after the breach, Twitter released a statement, and a portion of that statement is as follows. This attack relied on a significant and concerted attempt to mislead certain employees and exploit human vulnerabilities to gain access to our internal systems. This was a striking reminder of how important each person on our team is in protecting our service. Every business owner, small or large, should read that statement and think about how this can apply to them. So how could SAT have helped here? Well, it's safe to assume a company as big as Twitter provided employees with some security awareness training. In fact, we know they do. But businesses need to ensure that their SAT training covers all types of threats, including spear phishing by any medium, such as the phone, which was the primary vector here. Frequency is key. Training should occur monthly to reinforce concepts and keep staff on their toes. The goal here is to get everyone on the same page. And without consistent security training, different departments or geographic locations of a business, for example, may be employing different principles. Security should be cohesive across all employees and departments. Getting all parties on the same page is critical for reducing risk. So now we're going to talk a bit about ransomware. So what is ransomware? I'm sure you've heard it in the news. Ransomware is a type of malware that prevents or limits users from accessing their systems, either by locking the system screen or by locking the user's files until a ransom is paid. Now, more modern ransomware families, collectively categorized as crypto ransomware, encrypt certain file types on infected systems and force users to pay the ransom, usually via cryptocurrency such as Bitcoin or Monero. Now, ransom prices vary depending on the ransomware variant, the price or exchange rates of digital currencies, the target of the attack, and the perpetrator responsible. For example, it is reported that in the recent Colonial Pipeline attack, Colonial Pipeline paid a ransom of 75 Bitcoin, at the time roughly $5 million to the hackers in exchange for a decryption tool, which actually proved so slow that the disaster recovery systems used by the company were actually more effective in bringing back operational capacity. It should be noted, however, that paying the ransom does not guarantee that users will get the decryption key or unlock tool required to regain access to the infected system or hostaged files. Indeed, it may also even set a precedent that if you do pay, you're likely to be attacked again. Now, users might encounter this threat through a variety of means. Ransomware can be downloaded onto systems when users visit malicious or compromised websites, and often staff are actually social engineered to visit these sites or click the links in phishing emails. It can also arrive as a payload that is downloaded by other malware, delivered as attachments from spammed email, and downloaded from malicious web pages through fake ads. So let's summarize some of the points on ransomware. Ransomware is one of the most devastating attacks a company can face, leading to a complete loss of data and systems. And even if you do pay the ransom, you may not gain access to your systems and data. And paying the ransom, it's just not recommended by most law enforcement. Recent attacks use double extortion, whereby attackers also exfiltrate the data to a separate location. There, it can be used for other purposes, including leaking the information to the public if payment is not received. And last year, phishing was one of the primary vectors by which ransomware was delivered to company networks. So let's look at a real-life ransomware attack. This attack actually happened to a Scottish public body. In the early hours of Christmas Eve 2020, the Scottish Environmental Protection Agency, known as SEPA, was hit by a ransomware attack conducted by an international organised crime group. The attack commenced at 1 minute past midnight on the 24th of December. Lovely timing, right? The group stole 1.2 gigabytes of data, which amounted to approximately 4,000 files, including contracts, strategy documents, and databases. But the data theft was just in addition to the real objective, which was actually to cripple SEPA systems in a ransomware attack and demand a ransom. The attack was later claimed by the Conti ransomware group. And yes, there are actually ransomware groups out there. This is what they do. SEPA decided not to pay the ransom, and they've been working since the attack to resume critical and essential business processes. SEPA should actually be commended for their handling of this attack. They've been completely transparent, conducted several reviews, and made the findings public such that other businesses can benefit from their findings. Many organizations seek to hide the fact they've been attacked, but if everyone did this, how could others learn? So what did the report say? Well, firstly, it found that SEPA was actually a well-protected organisation with the Scottish Business Resilience Centre, the SBRC, determining that SEPA's cyber maturity was high and that sophisticated defence and detection mechanisms were implemented and operating correctly prior to the incident. Although it noted that no security regime can be 100% secure. So SEPA had significant investment in the security of their systems, such as Cyber Essentials, Cyber Essentials Plus, endpoint protection, user phishing training, Proofpoint email filtering, firewalls, automated patch management processes, VPN access controls, and professional vulnerability management. So you're probably wondering, does this mean these tools are ineffective? No. The reality is that defenders have to be right all of the time, 24/7, 365, and attackers only have to be right once for an attack to be successful. SEPA may have been hit before and with greater frequency before an attack finally succeeded if it was actually not for their significant investment in security. However, the reports did indicate areas of improvement, and in the context of this webinar, we shall focus on security training. So the following was noted in the reports. Senior managers within the IS team had attended external cyber resilience training. However, no other cyber resilience training was delivered. Staff indicated that a lack of training, while senior managers indicated there was budget for training. And this was due to an expectation that employees would identify necessary training and schedule time to attend it themselves. So the key point here is that security training should be provided to everyone in the organization, the entire workforce. And this should be scheduled by the company and enforced. Anyone can be a target, and by only ensuring that the entire workforce is vigilant to cyber threats, can you attempt to create an actual human firewall. Additionally noted in the reports, technical training will be an important part of SEPA's recovery. This will be accessed by staff to maintain current skills and develop new skills. Now, prior to the incident, SEPA had signed up to some of the information in the report, as you can see there, is actually redacted, so that's why we can't say that. SEPA will continue to build on this and will train further staff as required. So it's interesting to note that SEPA's approach moving forward is to invest more in training. They obviously see this as an important line of defense in preventing another incident like this from happening. And the final section regarding training in the report was as follows. SEPA will reintroduce mandatory cyber training for all staff, and the take-up of this training will be monitored. In addition, when there's intelligence of specific vulnerabilities, bespoke notices, advice, and training will be given. So the key point here is that training should be mandatory, tracked, and easily accessible. We all know that everyone is extremely busy, right? But with so much at stake, security training needs to be compulsory. Training should also cover a wide range of threats and keep up with the latest threats. It's not simply enough to cover phishing. Cybersecurity changes daily, weekly, hourly, right? Got to be on top of that. So how could SAT have helped with this specific situation? Well, without knowing the exact vector by which this attack took place, which we don't, it is difficult to know which specific element of training would have helped prevent this exact attack. Now, some attacks exploit technical infrastructure and are not instigated by social engineering, and some attacks use both. But having a trained and informed workforce on cybersecurity can only help strengthen the security posture of your business. It's never a bad thing. Now, cybersecurity, as we mentioned before, works like layers in an onion, and SAT is simply one of these layers. It should be a key part of your defense in-depth strategy, accompanying other technical controls such as firewalls, antivirus, and threat intelligence, for example. And it's actually the synergy of all these layers working together that creates something greater than the sum of its parts. However, as identified in the reports, there is a lot of emphasis being placed on training in the future. Clearly, SEPA believes this has value in protecting themselves moving forward. As availability and accessibility of security awareness training is of critical importance, let's take a look at how our training is delivered. So of course, all forms of security awareness training are helpful, but research has shown that traditional training where staff watch a presentation, maybe complete a short exam, does not help build users into a strong defensive line, as they will complete a course once a year, and within a couple of weeks, they will have forgotten most of what they've learned. We've all been there, right? Cybersecurity threats change rapidly, and users need to be aware. Modern security training should be accessible, diverse, and regular. Our training is delivered through computer-based software and covers an array of threats that businesses may face. And this allows the employee to attend the training when it best fits their schedule. And all they need is a computer with a web browser. Now, the modern workforce is a diverse workforce with different culture types, personalities, and skill sets. To effectively train this diversity, a range of training methods should be used to ensure that the message is absorbed by everyone. Therefore, RSAT training encompasses a range of educational styles. There are Netflix-style serial shows which demonstrate cybersecurity concepts through engaging storylines that suck the viewer into the narrative. By using interactive modules and games, staff are fully immersed in the scenario, which results in increased engagement and enhanced understanding. And of course, more traditional corporate-style content is also available. The most successful training courses are the ones that engage delegates, and by using these diverse methods, there really is something for everyone. Now, training leads your employees towards adoption. They are informed and they understand risks once they've been through security training. Now, with continued training comes greater awareness, thus enhancing security throughout your business. We have monthly campaigns to reinforce security concepts and keep your staff updated on the latest cyber threats. As I mentioned before, cybercrime tactics are always evolving and the training needs to keep up. And this is why our training also includes phishing simulations. The majority of malware is delivered by phishing attacks, and training your staff how to spot and avoid phishing emails is vital to keeping your business secure. As we have discussed today, many cyber attacks have been successful due to phishing or other social engineering techniques which target people and not technology. People need to be put in a position that will determine if their organization gets breached or not. Phishing simulations prompt users to either click a link, report the phish, or do nothing. You want to give them the opportunity to report phishing attempts and help the organization increase resilience. And if they do fall for the phish, you want the ability to create a learning moment through automated remedial training. And as you can see with the graphical results on the screen, with phishing simulations in place, the trend over time is that users click less and do not enter data as frequently, if at all. So, what are the results? Well, the main benefits that our customers report after enrolling their staff in SAT are as follows. A reduced risk of successful attacks. Staff who have completed the training report potential attacks more frequently, reducing the likelihood of a successful attack. Improved staff awareness. Staff who are more comfortable using technology in their day-to-day role. An increased understanding of staff capabilities. The course provides a breakdown of all team members, identifying those who require more support. Peace of mind, knowing that your staff are trained and are acting as a defensive line. Saving time and money. By reducing the level of successful attacks, businesses will have less downtime and will not be held at ransom by cyber criminals. Now, these are just some of the benefits of enrolling in security awareness training. You really need to create a human firewall within your business to stay safe online. So I'm going to leave you today with the same question. What could be your best asset in protecting your business from cyber threats? Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, AJ. That's a great presentation. I really appreciate your time putting this together for everyone that's attended. Yeah, so we've got a few questions coming through right now. But first of all, before we do that, if you want to get together with myself or AJ, then get your phones out of your pockets and scan that QR code that's up in front of the screen there. That'll take you to our Calendly link where you'll be able to schedule an appointment with myself, and I'll pull AJ into that as required. So thanks for doing that. If you're interested in getting that meeting organized, get your phone out of your pocket, scan that QR code. So all that remains for today is to obviously thank AJ and Natalie for producing everything and getting us online today. We'll answer some questions. None of them have, oh, we've got one new question here. Let me have a look. Okay, let me publish that one. So got a question from someone in the attendees today saying, should we be experiencing substantial increase of attacks attempts given recent global events? I think that's an excellent question, and obviously referring to the Ukraine ongoing incident over the water there. So yeah, I think AJ, I'll let you answer that one.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, it's a question I think a lot of people are considering at the moment, and I mean, yeah, yes is the short answer. I think that the trend over time is as systems become more online, more digitized, everything's moving online. We've got cloud providers, everything's everywhere these days. That I think cybercrime is set to increase anyway. Businesses are likely to encounter the threats we know about all the time right now, like ransomware, phishing, that kind of stuff, and new threats we don't even know exist yet. We didn't go into it today, but obviously there's different actors, as we call them in the cyber world. These can be things like, lone wolves, one hacker sitting in their bedroom, as we traditionally think about a guy in his basement. It could be groups, organized crime groups that we've seen with the ransomware attacks that targeted Colonial Pipeline and SEPA, for example. And then you've got state-sponsored actors, and these are groups that are actually sponsored by states to either inflict damage on businesses for economic intent or part of military operations, which is I think what we're looking at just now. So the trend over time is just that these kind of things will ramp up, and businesses really need to be prepared with things like training, awareness, and other technical controls that obviously we've not discussed today. Things like making sure you've got good email security protection systems, making sure you've got good firewalls in place, all that kind of stuff. We spoke about the defense in depth and the layers of an onion analogy, and it's very important that businesses have all of the pieces of the puzzle in place to give themselves the best chance to stay safe moving forward, especially with current events.
I think as well, I'll post a link in the Q&A. So it's a link to the LinkedIn page of the National Cybersecurity Centre, where they're kind of giving some advice. 11 actions is their most recent posted video, 11 actions to protect your organisation. But yeah, there's definitely updated guidance for UK businesses right now due to actual cyber attacks that are going on in Ukraine right now. So yeah, I'll post that in the chat right now, and then if you have a look at that, that should help give you some more information on that as well. I've got a question that came in here. Is it possible to stop phishing emails coming into our systems? So I think this is referring to kind of email security and advanced threat detection, AJ.
Yes. So yes. That's what I was meaning by the onion analogy, defense in depth. So it's all about, I like to think about it as multiple nets in a row. So a phishing email could be stopped by your email security gateway, for example, but no system can be 100%. Someone will come up with a way to trick those systems. Someone will come up with something, or like the compromised account example. So if you do business with a customer, for example, and they get their email hacked, they send you the phishing link. Your email security system is not likely to block that because it's a valid contact of your business. So there's always loopholes, if you will, ways and means that these things are not foolproof. But for the majority of obvious phishing, yeah, those kind of systems can be absolutely fantastic at stopping phishing attempts, especially if it's a little bit less sophisticated, where they're sending a clearly malformed PDF or something that has a link to known phishing domains, that kind of stuff. So it's possible, but not 100% possible, and that's why other vectors are important. And just on a comment on the training, when we talk about phishing and spear phishing, a lot of people think we just mean email. We don't. And I know there's the concept of vishing. I'm not a biggest fan of these other terms, but if someone calls you, or in the incident which happened in the Twitter example, that was actually instigated by calling them. So, your staff have to be aware of that type of vector as well, which there's no email security gateway is going to stop a phone call coming to your organization. So yeah, hopefully that answers that in a fairly roundabout way. But as you can see, there's no easy answers. It's all about multiple layers.
Thanks, AJ. I've got another question in from Claire, and Claire is asking, if we get a phishing email, what action steps should we take? E.g., delete, mark as junk, block it, inform the IT help desk, or inform other staff? That's a really good question as well. So, yep. Yes.
So good question. If we go with the inform other staff, that's an interesting one, because a lot of the increase in phishing attacks being successful over the pandemic is because as people are sitting at home, they're not sitting in their open plan offices, so no one can just shout out to the room and go, did anyone just get this email? And then that kind of word of mouth protects them in that way. When they're all sitting at home, people are less likely to discuss that kind of thing. So yeah, it really depends on what you want to do with it. If you know it's phishing and you 100% want to block that domain, for example, we recommend contacting your IT provider, getting that on a block list, and you'll never hear from that domain again. Scammers rotate domains all the time, as you can imagine. They kind of throw them away. So, that may protect you for a wee while. If you're absolutely sure it's phishing, 100%, you're not interested, delete it and move on with your day. Because the point about cybersecurity as well, we're not trying to get in the way of your day. We obviously know that you guys are trying to run businesses. So you can't be spending too much time on these things, reporting them, wondering about them. It's got to be a slick process. So, and that's the key point there, is have a process. Think about what that looks like for your business. Are you going to report it as a means of that's your process, report them to IT? Are you just going to delete them? Is that your process? But a defined process is key. Otherwise, one person's doing one thing, one person's doing another thing, and that's where you kind of get these gaps, and that's where we want that cohesive security strategy across the board.
Great. Okay, thank you very much, AJ. Yeah, just another question that came in there, but it's more of a comment. So thank you for that comment. They're just saying that the security training typically viewed as a bit dry, but this is very insightful and should be commended for taking into account personality and learning differences in training. So thank you for that. It was an anonymous comment that just came in there. Okay, so that really wraps up today. I want to thank everybody once more. AJ, thank you so much. I know it's taken a lot of time pulling all this together and coming up with the right language, and we tried to keep things simple at IT Hotdesk. We don't want to confuse our attendees to the webinar, so you've done a great job at doing that, keeping it nice and simple, so I appreciate that. Natalie, thanks for producing today. And of course, finally, thank you for all the attendees for joining. Like I said before, get your phones out, scan that QR code, get an appointment with us. It's free, it's not going to cost you anything. Let's have a chat. Let's see if we can help you keep your business safe. That's what we're here for. We want to make sure that our customers and anybody else that interacts with us is in a safe environment when they're working with each other. So keeping your business safe, keeping it safe from cyber attack is key moving forward. So thank you so much.